All right, we'll call to order Safety and Public Works. It is Monday, September 16th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. in City Council chambers. Looks like we have 6 items tonight. First of which is downtown snow removal bids for 24-25, and this is Public Works Director Jesse Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff did receive 2 bids for the annual downtown snow removal contract for the 2024 to 2025 winter season. Advantage Home Pros and Tom's Backhoe were the 2 bidders. Both bids were essentially equal when comparing the base 4-inch snowfall. The bids differ when comparing the price for each additional inch. Advantage is $39.61 less per inch for streets and parking lots, while Tom's is $1.54 less per inch for sidewalks. By factoring in the additional inch proposals, Advantage Home Pros is the lower overall cost proposal. As Advantage Home Pros has not performed the contract previously, staff did verify that Advantage has the equipment necessary per the specifications and can meet the timeline per the requirements. Per Jeff's email this afternoon, staff was able to speak with Advantage and find that they have 25 field employees during snow season and that they have been performing snow removal for 8 years. Based on the lower cost proposal, staff is recommending award of the downtown snow removal contract for the 2024-2025 winter season to Advantage Home Pros.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Jeff.
Who determines the amount of snowfall?
You're talking about what will fall or based on each storm?
Each
Yeah,
store.
when we get billed, who determined if that's an accurate amount they're charging for?
We use the measurement from the DNR.
National Weather Service or airport?
Correct. They're running off NOAA. They're all kind of the same measurement service, but we use the DNR service. It's the one that's listed in the specifications now.
Okay.
Don't tell Kevin that. Because he's supposed to be out there measuring it.
Oh,
Yeah, Stunik's supposed to measure that.
We don't want to tell him that we have some other
I
measure.
thought we were going to hire Patrick for that, though.
okay.
So they have the same equipment that we're used to having downtown, similar, what is the approach there? I guess I didn't see a whole lot of detail on the bid itself, it was just numbers, so I know you did some digging and found out what their plan was as far as in comparison to what we've done in the past. Is it very similar, the same, somewhat different?
Correct. So the specifications just require that the streets be cleared with a motor grader that's capable of scraping packed down snow and ice. I did confirm that they do have a motor grader available to them to perform that work, and that they're able to blade off the other snow off of the sidewalks. So that is something that is required in the specifications.
Okay,
And they have the sidewalk, excuse me, they have the sidewalk cleaning equipment, I think it's a broom device or not, or is it just a plow?
They can either one.
Okay.
okay.
Make a motion to approve the Advantage contract bid.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 2, we have Bridge Inspection Services Proposal. Again, this is Public Works Director Jesse Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in 2024, the city is required to have our 2 bridges inspected. Attached is a proposal from Bolton & Mink to perform the biannual inspections. They have performed these inspections in the past and have done a good job, including providing the recommendation for the rehab that is currently being performed on the Laurel Street Bridge. Staff's recommending approval of the proposal from Bolton & Mink for bridge inspection services in the amount of $2,400.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
James? I didn't get that. Thanks.
Item number 3, we have a traffic control change at the intersection of 5th Avenue Northeast and D Street Northeast. Public Works Director Jesse Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So council requested that staff evaluate the intersection of Fifth Avenue and D Street Northeast based on reported concerns of drivers running the stop signs generally in the north-south direction. Staff performed an analysis including visual observation of the intersection, collection of crash data, and citations. We've included a summary of the findings in the agenda item as well as the attached photos of the intersection in the packet. As mentioned in the agenda item, staff was able to observe operations in the intersection over multiple periods. What was observed was several drivers failing to adhere to the stop signs on Fifth Avenue, while a couple egregiously violated the stop sign by traveling likely 15 to 20 miles per hour through the intersection. It was clear that the ability to see the stop signs were not an issue, as all the vehicles did apply their brakes before approaching the intersection, and the photos show no visual obstructions. Staff included the guidance from the manual on traffic control devices on when four-way stops should be considered. One facet that staff was not able to fully evaluate was traffic volumes on D Street. Having traffic volumes would allow staff to verify that the threshold was not met. However, during the visual observations, it is highly likely that the traffic volumes on D Street do not exceed the 200 vehicles and pedestrians per hour for 8 hours, and likely do not exceed this threshold more than 1 or 2 hours per day. Based on the evaluation, it would be staff's recommendation that the stop signs be removed on the Fifth Avenue direction at this intersection, and can answer additional questions the council may have on this.
Thank you. You guys have questions?
Yeah, I got a comment.
Mr. Chesak?
I understand what warrants, based on your information, what warrants a stop sign. I'm very reluctant to say let's remove that. And the reason why, the cars that go north go right by my residence. And many cars are accelerating like you would not believe, and they got 1 block before the next stop sign at East Street. And I'm just very concerned if we remove the stop signs, that speed, it's like that, call that stop sign, if you will, it's not being adhered to, call it a visual speed bump. We know cars, for the most part, don't entirely run it, they slow down. I look at it more as maybe it's effective as a yield sign. And I appreciate staff's recommendation based on what's warranted and what isn't, but the number of cars I hear cruising by there, it's over the top, and that's even coming south. So I'm just concerned the next stop going south is Washington Street, and if there isn't a stop sign there, and the next stop sign going north from that Washington Street corridor, which is what, 4 blocks, D is 4 blocks north or 3? It's extraordinary, and I'd rather have a stop sign there that people are at least slowing down for than nothing at all. So I'd be willing to just say, leave it as is. Nobody seems to have serious incident or accidents there or crashes, so it's my thought.
I have a question first. And I'm kind of surprised I haven't thought to ask this at other intersections where we deal with this, but there doesn't seem to be any metric based on pedestrian traffic through the intersection. Is that true, Jesse? Is that not considered in the where to put stop signs question?
That's a little bit tougher because we don't necessarily have traffic counters available to us for pedestrians. The only way to do that is to set up like a actual video camera to make those counts.
Is that ever factored into the official recommendations at all? Like, not yours, I mean, like where these guidelines come from.
Yes, it is. So
Okay.
in the, if you look at the minimum volumes on the second criteria, it does say that the 200 units includes both vehicles
Okay.
and pedestrians, including bicyclists. So that is a combination of all, and that's both legs.
Okay. So I think we're gonna end up not changing this. I appreciate all the work you put into it, Jesse. I'm not wanting to make changes that like this right now in particular, because we're gonna have that 210 project. It's gonna divert a lot of traffic into Northeast, and I have only the vaguest handle on what that's actually gonna look like while that's under construction. And I feel like as somebody who goes through that intersection regularly, I don't want you to move my cheese while you're moving all my other cheese, if that makes sense. And, I, once it's all done, I think we're gonna have a different traffic pattern too. So I would like to maybe review this. Honestly, I think that after that project is done, we're gonna have to review a lot of the intersections in Northeast and where the traffic is actually going. And maybe I just wanna put this on that list to review in 4 or 5 years.
Makes sense to me. I think about this intersection because I go through it quite a bit. And when I think about coming from Washington Street going north, it seems like there's always a car parked in front of the stop sign, and that's more of a problem that I've noticed. And that's not, that's not the only intersection that's like that, but it just seems very frequent. But the other concern I have is changing this, are we going to cause even a few accidents in that process where cars are coming into it, thinking it's still four-way, even though I know staff would put up some warnings and some extra signals. But I think Ms. Stenglein has a good idea of maybe reevaluating this along with some of the other intersections once we get done with the 210 project. So I'm in agreement with the two of you that we leave it as is for now.
So I don't think that you need a motion, but if you want one, I'll make it. Up to you, Mr.
It's easier with a motion, I think.
Then I will move that we leave it as a 4-way stop for now.
Okay,
Second.
motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Next, we have item number 4. Staff is asking for direction regarding signs within the right-of-way. And again, this is Public Works Director Jesse Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff is requesting direction from the City Council on how to address the growth of yard signs within the public right-of-way. So recently, MnDOT put out a public notice that was carried by the dispatch stating that the requirement that signs cannot be placed within the right-of-way. We've seen quite a few signs, including political campaign, window cleaning, gutter replacement, realty, and other signs throughout town. Staff has received a couple instances of complaints this summer about advertisements placed within the public right-of-way. As we approach the election season, we do anticipate more signs and likely more calls about the signs in the right-of-way. So staff is just requesting direction on the council on how to handle all the signs within the right-of-way. An active approach would be to put out a notice similar to MnDOT to educate folks that first, that signs cannot be within the right-of-way and need to be removed. If they're not removed, city staff would remove them. We have done this in the past and brought them to City Hall for people to pick them up. Another option would be a passive approach similar to like code violations where we address them on a complaint basis. Staff is concerned that a complaint-based approach can also put the city in a difficult position, that we could receive complaints from a competing politician or a realtor or a business, request that signs be taken down by their competing other realtor or business. Then the city may appear to the public to be removing selective signs. To keep the character that city staff is impartial to any business or political party, staff recommends that the city use more of an active approach to address signs in the right-of-way, but start with education and outreach first so folks can move their signs appropriately first.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Chesak.
Jesse, this happened, I don't know if it was 8 years ago or it was a while ago. And as much as it pains me to say this, the staff did not use very good discretion when removing signs. And what I mean by that is there were signs clearly on the homeowner's side of the sidewalk, which is where they have to be, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and an individual told me that whoever was from streets or whatever came along, he was standing there when they grabbed the sign on the property, the house side of the sidewalk, and he said, "Why are you taking that? It's got to be picked up. They got to all be picked up." He said, "But it's on the right spot. We still got to take it." So if our staff that's picking this up understands the parameters, I guess I would be in favor of this, but I'm cautious because sometimes things happen beyond your control or anyone else's control. I don't know who the actual people were, but they were from the city, and it happened on 2 different instances that I had firsthand, or people standing right there and one watched outside their window. And so I'm concerned about that. As long as our staff knows what's the appropriate place and what isn't, I wouldn't object to what you're recommending. But if I get reassurance that that's gonna be handled properly, because there's 2 sides to every story, I understand that, but when I have a friend telling me that the sign in question was on their side of the sidewalk, once it's gone, it's gone. You know, they gotta go, whoever the candidate is, has to go pick it up then, so.
Is that all, Jeff?
Yep.
Thank you, Jeff. Ms. Stingley?
I think it was some time back when Paul Sandy was still sitting over there, and Mike, maybe you can help me with when it was. But we simplified the rules about where they could, because it was very, I mean, yes, it was right of way, but it was different width and different streets. I see Jesse nodding at me. And it's like, I think at one point I looked at mine and they'd have to be in my backyard, in my house. So I think we simplified it so it can be explained in a easier way to not just staff, but yes, staff, but also to our constituents who are, you know, and I don't have any out yet, so go ahead and pull them all today.
Thank you. So when I think about this, I think about the fact we have a election season here that's gonna be over in under 2 months. It's a very temporary issue that we're dealing with. If this wasn't a state statute, I would push to remove any regulation on signs having to do with politics, especially because if you don't like the particular sign, you can just look somewhere else, anywhere else. But I think a common sense approach to this would just be if somebody's putting signs in our parks, if somebody's putting signs in our boulevards or anywhere that's not private property, that's public property, those signs should just get picked up immediately. If it's a political sign or any other organization that hasn't, cleared that with our staff or council. But I don't want to send our staff out patrolling the streets and measuring distances with where signs are at. I think we're complaint-based for everything else, so I think we should remain complaint-based for this issue as well. I realize that has some risk involved, I guess, in interpreting or receiving complaints more on one side than the other side, but I think our staff can use their judgment on when that's happening and just go with the common sense approach going forward. Mr. Chazak?
I forgot your memo. Did it say that currently if somebody calls in and complains about a sign being in the wrong place, you guys, I forgot. I thought it was mentioned in there. Can you remind me what's said in that memo? Was that discussed in your memo, Jesse?
Right now, that's when somebody does complain, then we go out and address it right now.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all I have. I would just, I guess, be in favor of sticking to that, as Mike described. Motion to that?
I don't know if we,
I think we have to do it actively if we're gonna do it, but I tell you what, you make the motion, I'll second it, and then I'll vote against it, Jeff.
Okay, I'll move that we just keep things status quo with the, being complaint driven to have staff address the complaint when it's called in or emailed in.
Second?
motion and a second. Any more discussion? Nothing? All right, hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All against, same sign.
No.
Motion passes.
You didn't give the same sign.
I'm sorry. Aye. Does it count? Let's try it again.
All right, item number 5, we have a consideration for past citations for 1002 15th Street Southeast for Mr. Mike Deegan. We'll have Community Development Director James Kramvik introduce this one, and then if you guys have questions or we have questions for Mr. Kramvik, we'll do that, and then we'll have Mr. Deegan come up and give his side.
Sounds good.
Go
Thank you,
ahead,
Mr. Chair.
Gravick.
So Mike Deegan was the property owner of 1002 15th Street Southeast in 2023, which was also a licensed rental. The property did have multiple violations of junk and debris, predominantly in the rear yard. The property also had violations for parking on an unimproved surface in the front yard. It was a camper. Mr. Deegan was in contact with our department regarding the issues and was attempting to evict the tenants at the time. The department did agree to waive the citations for junk and debris if the property issues were corrected. Jason, our code enforcement officer, was unaware of the citations in the front yard parking. That was delegated to our assistant planner at the time, Dylan Edwards. So those citations were assessed to the property while the junk and debris were voided. Staff would have recommended waiving the citations at the assessment hearing had Mr. Deegan made the request. Mr. Deegan, we believe, paid $717.10 to the county. If waived, the council would have to reimburse Mr. Deegan. And I can answer any questions.
Thank you. You guys have any questions for James?
Have we figured out a way so this doesn't happen again? With one person doing one thing and somebody else doing something else and then not?
Right now, we don't have,
Okay.
we don't have an assistant planner right now.
Yeah.
If we do, we maybe would have to address that, but Jason is the one handling all the code violations at this time.
So for now, we're good.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chezak?
So as I understand it, the property owner was notified and did not make the hearing, and no communication as to his desire to have these waived at the,
Yeah, so the letter was sent out. We verified that, put that into the agenda packet here, and maybe a question for Mr. Deegan on why he didn't attend or if he didn't receive the letter, but it was verified that it was sent out.
so that's the process we have though, right now.
That is the process we have.
Okay. To your point, I guess.
Okay. Any more questions, guys? Otherwise, we'll have Mr. Deegan, if you want to tell your side of the story. Come on up to the microphone here. Make sure that the little green light is on, and then just name and address before you start.
Where I reside or the address of the property?
Whatever. If
Michael-
home address is
Michael
typically-
Deegan, 1002 Southeast 15th Street, Brainerd. I am a landlord here in Brainerd, of course. Thank you very much for taking time for my consideration. As James spoke, this particular issue was one of those evictions that took a considerable amount of time because there was a lot of children in the house, and so the court was allowed a little bit extra time for them to get out. Our hands were tied on what we could do and what we couldn't do and things, and then we finally got the eviction in place. I went to the county to get the writ of recovery, and the county was backed up a couple weeks, so it took me another 2 weeks to get the writ of recovery to get them out of there. When the writ was put into place and they were removed from the property, that property was cleaned up and was cleaned up within 30 hours. The entire property was cleaned up and all that, and everything was all good. I understand your question regarding, I did receive the notification in the mail that there was going to be, but on the hand, I talked to Jason when I thought that he was handling all of them in that department when he said, don't worry, you got in there, you took care of it, I know your hands were tied, but I didn't know that somebody else was taking care of this particular these 3 violations. So it's my error. I understand that you have a system in place, and I'm just asking that, this is a pretty heavy duty for something that was kind of out of my control. And I probably dropped the ball that when I did receive the notice, but I just assumed that Jason, because I've been a landlord here in Brainerd for 30 years, and he's always taken, as long as he's been here, he takes care of all of them. So I guess I did not understand that it was at a different department. So I apologize for that. And I'm just coming here saying that $717, and I realize that there was a cost to the city now of going through the paperwork and all that. I'm willing to pay your costs. If the costs of going through to the county, I'll pay those, but I just don't think that, I think the other is a little bit of something that was kind of out of my hands and my hands were tied. And I understand you guys have your policies in place, and I appreciate all of them, and the guys at the city have worked with me immensely on all the things, but this is the first one that I was kind of like, in all my years of being a landlord, that, hey, I'm not really okay with this. This is kind of, this is kind of a, we try to take care of people, and I did the right thing by allowing them more time. I worked with the court system until they could somehow find a home. So, any other questions, I guess? I'm sorry.
Questions? Good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. So yeah, the concern is, however much I might agree with Mr. Deegan, if we start going back on violations or any citations that are already paid into the county, even though I might agree 100% with Mr. Deegan, then what happens in 2 weeks? Do we get somebody asking for forgiveness on something from 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Do we randomly get these that come up all the time? That's the main concern I have. But I'm kind of on the fence, so I'd like to hear what you guys think.
I guess, oh, go ahead.
I hear what you're saying, but I think it is not reasonable to expect that the average person is going to know the difference between one kind of citation and another. I think this is a pretty specific, knew that I was getting these waived, thought that included all of them situation. I think this is pretty special in that way. So, I guess, Jeff, you want to say anything, or should I make a motion?
I liked his willingness to pay a portion of it, in the sense that we have administrative charges and such. I understand Mike's concern and yours to go back. And there is this distinct difference, as Tiffany mentioned. So I'll wait for your motion.
Actually, I have a question first. Do we have any idea what the what's the base thing here?
So we do, when they're not paid, apply a $25 administrative fee to
Okay.
each one of them. And then there's probably that extra $10 of interest. So the $600 is actually the citation amount, and then it would have been an extra $75 on administrative fees, and then the interest that's applied.
Okay, I will make a motion that we can split the baby on this, right?
What's that?
We can make it the dollar amount, anything we
Yep.
want on it, okay. And Joe's not here to make faces, so.
I miss those.
You should. It's worth the price of admission sometimes.
Okay.
I will make a motion that we reimburse Mr. Deegan $675. Fails for lack of a
Not
second. Okay.
Here a second. So a motion
Want to
fails
try?
for lack of second.
Yeah.
Mr. Chesak?
I make a motion. We pay Mr. Deegan $500.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Next item we have, final item for the night for Safety and Public Works, we have consideration of past citations and abatements for 1113 Rosewood Street. Mr. Dave Braverman, we've heard from this individual, I think, a couple times in the past. And again, I'll have Mr. Kramvik go ahead and introduce this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to let Mr. Deegan know as well that the city council will be fully voting on it. This is kind of a recommendation to city council. And that'll be kind of the case with Mr. Braverman's as well. So with this property, Mr. Braverman reached out to the Safety and Public Works Committee members and asked for consideration of waiving the nuisance assessments against his property at 1113 Rosewood Street. He stated in past meetings that he was not able to address the property issues because of his ex-partner's order of protection against him. Staff did verify this with documentation from the court, so this is a true statement. Staff did visit Mr. Braverman's property in late August and witnessed him cleaning and maintaining the yard and house. The property is now cleaned. Staff has attached a summary file that displays Mr. Braverman's outstanding special assessment charges with the county as well as pending assessments for this year and have provided options for the Safety and Public Works Committee to consider. The city has paid a private contractor $2,575 to address the private property issues, essentially abating the property. So with that, I can answer any questions, and Mr. Braverman is here as well.
Thank you. Mr. Kravik? Do you guys have any
Did you
questions
all,
for James before we have Mr. Braverman speak?
did you all get the email from James regarding my question?
Yes?
Don't know if I did.
He put the difference between the, what's the terminology you want?
Well, I got it and I read it and then I
Okay. It's
promptly
separated,
slid off my.
it separated the amount if we were to go to, I think, recommendation or option number 2.
Okay.
So I got the pending citation charges, 1,100. Okay, so that's outside of the 2,500 for the, what were those charges called?
Those are the actual abatements paid to a contractor.
Okay,
The abatement totals were how much?
Without the administrative costs, the abatement totals were $2,575.
Okay. All right. Mr. Braverman, do you wish to speak on this one? Okay, just name and address before you start.
David Braverman, 1113 Rosewood Street, Brainerd. I'm just going to remind you of what happened. Obviously, James here has read the court order. I wasn't there. I wasn't allowed to be there. I couldn't take care of the problem myself. And in a perfect world, I'd send her the bill for it. It's a little bit much for me to pay, even, with just getting rid of a certain amount. But, I mean, I appreciate your time here. I'm kind of nervous all of a sudden. Currently, I'm waiting on a dumpster, 30-yard dumpster, because there's a lot of garbage in the garage and the whole basement's a mess. But I made sure that I took care of the yard before I took care of anything else, like I gave my word. It's looking pretty good over there so far, and got things to do, but between now and when spring comes around, it'll get done. I just can't afford this on my bill. Single father and got all these bills to pay, and I can't work any harder than I have been. I've had one day off in the last year. Last 2 years. So it's something for you to consider with this.
Thank you.
thank you.
With this situation, obviously very unique situation, when somebody regains control of the home and cleans it up, that's exactly what we want. And I don't think the city ever has an issue with forgiving some of those citations like that. The problem is with the abatement, that's something that the taxpayers had to pay for. Even though you couldn't do it, there could have been other ways to hire someone else maybe. I don't know if there's a way for us to spread out the cost of that in a different way, or does it all have to go into 1 year, into 1 year's taxes for Mr. Braverman?
Could be a question for Joe or Connie. It was already certified to the county as an assessment, so I'm not sure if it could be redone as, say, like a 10-year assessment.
Sure. Okay.
Mike?
Yeah, Mr. Chazot.
The, outside of what James put in the agenda request of the $2,500, which is, he gave us this email which says the outstanding assessment charges with the county are $3,861.53, and then the pending 1,100. So a total of 4,900, whatever, change. But that's not that doesn't include the 2,500.
That does not include the abatements. Yeah, and the total abatement charge is 2,675. But those are added with the $100 worth of administrative charges. So that is on the
And
table to be
abatement is a
potentially
hard
waived
cost
as
that
well.
we paid somebody to take.
Yep, the 2,575 is the hard cost.
Okay.
I feel like I need a spreadsheet to sort all this. Do you want to make a go of it, Jeff?
I think Mr. Braverman has acted in very good faith. He told us what he was gonna do when he had the chance. He's done that. We paid a hard cost of the number James just described of 25, 26, whatever, with administration. I would be willing to move that we relieve him of the two items of the 3,000, I'm sorry, 2,800,
Plus the 261.93?
yes,
So we got 3,061.53.
161, isn't it?
Nope, just
Okay,
61.
I'm having a little trouble here. Okay, 3,000, thank you, that's what, okay. That-
And, I'm sorry, did you
No,
want
go
to
ahead.
waive the
Well, I
pending
just-
charges as well?
The what?
The pending?
Yes,
as well.
that's why I wanted to include the pending charges as well, so it'd be 4,161.
So the motion is to forgive all citations aside from abatement charges, correct?
Since abatements are hard costs, yes, correct.
That's the way that I wanted to say it. Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate your
yes.
help.
I'll second it.
All right, motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and we can adjourn to the council meeting.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. And I would